Welcome back to Beginning Band COVID Companion, Distance Learning for Band. This is video 3 of a 4-part series. We already learned how to assemble and disassemble our instrument. Then we learned how to maintain the mechanics of the instrument and disinfect it. Now we will learn how to make our first beautiful sounds. Stand tall with your feet flat on the floor so that you are securely grounded. Percussionists don't get to sit down unless they play the timpani. Your shoulders should be down and relaxed. Face your body and arrange your equipment so that you can see your instrument, your music, and your conductor with minimal adjustment. We will be playing with matched grip, which means that when you play, your hands are symmetrical, and they should be held and played evenly unless the music asks you to do otherwise. Pick up your sticks with your index finger and thumb. It will be about 1/3 away from the stick, and if you're lucky enough to be playing with Vic Firth SD1 snare drum sticks, there's actually a United States flag to show you exactly where to grab. Your finger and thumb will form what's called the fulcrum of your grip, and it needs to be firm enough that you don't drop your sticks, but loose enough to have maximum rebound when you hit your drum or your other percussion instruments. To achieve this, think about holding the stick like it is a ladybug. Hold it firmly enough so that the ladybug cannot escape, but hold it gently enough that you don't injure the ladybug. The tips of your remaining 3 fingers should touch the drumstick, but not grab the drumstick. You will use the tips of these fingers to help control the rebound. Your palms will be down and your knuckles will be up. When you're in playing position, the tips of your sticks, also known as the beads, should rest 2 inches above the instrument ready to play. A full stroke, also known as a natural stroke, starts high and rebounds fully, meaning that the stick will also end high. We use this kind of stroke when we have consecutive accents. A downstroke is where the bead of the stick starts high, but it's going to rebound minimally so that it ends low. You should use this downstroke anytime that you used to have an accented note, but the next note that you're about to play is an unaccented note. If you compare the 2 pictures, you can see that her right stick started high, but ended low. An upstroke is when the bead of your stick starts low, but it will rebound fully and end high. You use an upstroke after you've had an unaccented note, but are preparing for an accented note. A tap starts low, and it will rebound minimally, meaning that it will end low as well. This is the kind of stroke that we will use for most notes. It maximizes efficiency and it demonstrates control. You want to avoid tension in your fingers, shoulders, hands, neck, and everywhere. Tension leads to bad tone on a percussion instrument. The grip is what determines good tone on a percussion instrument. Use a grip that is free but controlled. So hold on loosely, but don't let go. Another part of what controls good tone on a percussion instrument is where you strike the instrument. Keyboard instruments are meant to be struck in the center of the bar or on the top of the nearest side of the bar, but never directly above a string or directly above a screw. Drum instruments should be struck near the center, but not exactly in the center. Wherever the drum head has the most natural resonance, that's where you should strike it. Special techniques may call for you to hit the drum closer to the rim or closer to the center, but the default is to hit it a little bit away from the center. If you hit it exactly in the center, it will have a dead sound. If you hit it a little bit away from the center, it will have a full sound. If you hit it toward the rim, it will sound like the drum is distant. So sometimes that's okay too. Now that you've seen the correct and incorrect postures and hand techniques, it's time for us to make some beautiful sounds on our percussion instruments.
We're going to be talking about producing beautiful tones on the percussion instrument. Too many people in the world believe that percussion is all just about hitting stuff with other stuff. And while it's true that indeed we do hit stuff with other stuff, there is totally a right way and a wrong way to do so. So we're going to be talking about some basic techniques that you can transfer from most percussion instruments to each other that are going to help you ring true on some more beautiful tones. On your keyboard instruments, the resonance and beauty is going to be coming from where you strike the bars. So if you strike a bar in the middle of it, it's going to have some really beautiful resonance to it. However, if you strike a bar right above the strings, it's going to be dead sounding. That's a node. It doesn't sound very good. If you need to play a very fast passage, it's okay to hit the bars right on the end, closer to the other bars. And that can sometimes be more efficient if you need to play very fast. Another thing to think about when you're playing your instrument is definitely your grip. You want to pinch your mallets in a place called the fulcrum. And that is the balance point where you get the most flexibility and control of your mallet. The fulcrum of your keyboard mallets are usually going to be about 1/3 up from the bottom, and that can change by a few millimeters one way or the other depending on the weight distribution and the materials that the mallets are made out of, but for the most part, start at about 1/3 and then you can choke up if you need to or bring your grip back a little bit if you need to. What we're going to be playing with is something called matched grip. That is where one mallet looks symmetrical with the other mallet. The matched grip altogether will make approximately a 90-degree angle as we play our instrument. Now that you found your fulcrum on your American flag with your Vic Firth SD1 snare drum sticks, another thing to realize is that we don't play a thumbs up style on the snare drum. And it's also not some random arbitrary style either. We very intentionally try to create a symmetrical snare drum playing style where the two sticks together come together at a right angle right above the snare drum. Another thing to keep in mind is that we're basically going to be palms down and knuckles up when we play. Some people liken it to riding a bicycle. The thing I don't love about that phrase is we don't want to be playing the snare drum with our elbows all the way out here like you would have bicycle bars. Instead, you're just going to have your arms in a nice relaxed fit slightly away from your body and have your palms down and knuckles up. This is going to give you the most agility and the best tone on your. Now, let's talk a little bit about what we need to do to get beautiful tones on the snare drum. Yes, we are going to strike the top head with our stick. However, there's a little bit more to it than that. There are correct places and incorrect places to hit the snare drum. The dead center of the snare drum is called a node, and it's going to mostly produce a dead, undesirable tone. So we won't want to hit it exactly right there. If you hit about an inch away from the rim, you're going to get fewer overtones with your sound, and it's going to be just a little bit more mild. If we want a big full sound, we're going to be close to the center with the bead of our drumstick, but we're going to be about an inch off center. That's going to give you your most full and robust tones. Sometimes it's actually more appropriate to play quiet notes near the rim for special effect. And sometimes we play our louder notes a little bit closer to the center. Let's talk about how to grip our drumsticks. If you are lucky enough to have Vic Firth SD1 snare drumsticks, there's going to be an American flag that shows you the exact point for the fulcrum between your index finger and your thumb. What do you do with the rest of your fingers, are you wondering? They're going to touch the stick, but they're not going to grip the stick very hard because we need it to be loose enough that you can roll and still controlled enough that you don't drop your sticks. So, if you can swing and get multiple bounces out of your strike, you're holding your grip just right. Let's discuss the 4 types of strokes on the snare drum. The first type of stroke is called a full stroke or a natural stroke. Think of starting your bead of your drumstick about 6 to 8 inches off of the head. Now a full stroke and a natural stroke is going to start high and end high. Anytime that the stick starts high but ends low after it strikes the drum is going to be called a downstroke. This is when we need to switch gears from something loud like an accent to something quieter like a tap. So the stick will still rebound off of the drum head, but it's not going to rebound its full amount back to where a full stroke would rebound to. The next type of stroke is called an upstroke. It's where you start lower to the drum, about an inch off of the head, and yet end higher off of the drum. So it's the opposite of a downstroke. The upstroke is appropriate for when you're preparing for a loud note like an accent. So it starts low and ends high. The last kind of stroke on the snare drum is called a tap. It is where the stick starts low and ends low. This is going to be where most of your concert snare drum playing will be found. Again, it's called a tap stroke. It starts low and it ends low. Another important term that we need to talk about is called alternate sticking. Alternate sticking is where you will alternate which stick you're hitting the drum with. So just because I'm right-handed doesn't mean that I get to play my notes all with my right hand. Instead, I'm going to be alternating every other note. Now there are other types of patterns too that are appropriate as well, like right hand lead, where your right hand will usually start on the stronger beats, and then you can change the pattern to whatever is the most intuitive based on the musical phrase.